started. I do anticipate people joining throughout the program. Some people are joining us partway through for portions of it, and some are here for the long haul. Christina, I think I have the go-ahead from you, correct? Great. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 Georgia Bio Golden Helix Awards. My name is Maria Thacker-Gothi, and I am President and CEO of Georgia Bio. As you're aware, this year's award ceremony is quite different. It was unfortunate that we had to cancel the last minute back in March, but the health and safety of our community is always of the utmost importance. So we appreciate your understanding and patience. Though we are all quite used to virtual meetings at this point, this will be the organization's first large-scale event with various speakers, and we ask for your grace and understanding with any technical issues that may arise. Now, before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. First, I hope you all downloaded your award Zoom background that Christina included in her reminder email yesterday. There were a number of options, and I think I have mine up behind me. So please know you can celebrate with us and put up that Zoom background if you know how to edit that. Secondly, the view at the top right of your corner, we encourage you to select the speaker view. Additionally, at the top middle, you'll see view options. Please make sure that you do not have the side-by-side view selected. Again, do not have that selected. Please stay muted. Christina has muted everybody, and we ask that all of our speakers, awardees, unmute yourself during your remarks and then mute yourself once again. The mute microphone is located at the bottom left hand of your corner. When it comes to your video, to the right hand of the microphone icon, you'll see a video camera icon which controls turning your webcam on and off. You do not have to share your video, but we encourage you to use the video feature if you're speaking during the program and during the breakout room portion. The chat feature appears as a speech bubble icon and will allow you to communicate with staff and other participants, but please be mindful when sending messages that they are going to the intended party and not the entire group, unless you did mean them for the full group. When it comes to applause, will be a little bit challenging, but to congratulate winners, we encourage you to use the reaction feature or to snap instead of clapping, especially if you've forgotten to mute yourself. The reaction feature appears as a smiley face icon at the bottom of your screen. You can also do a thumbs up or the clapping reaction. It will disappear after a few seconds. If you have any problems, contact Christina Forbes, Elise Stubbs, or Joseph Santoro on our team through the chat, and they will help work you through this technical difficulties. Please do not text me because I am trying to run the show here, and I'm not sure I'll be able to get to everyone's text. So with that, let's start to move on to our program. I would first like to thank our sponsors. We could not have done this without Kilpatrick Townsend. Slide, Christina. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. Without Kilpatrick Townsend, our presenting sponsor for this evening's event, and our additional event sponsors, Takeda, Brady Ware, the Global Center for Medical Innovation, Marist, UCB, and VWR. And my apologies, our bar registration sponsor was Takeda. Sadly, I'm unable to provide a bar from my home. But thank you to our sponsors. Without you, of course, this event would not be possible. I would also like to thank our 2020 champion sponsors shown here for the many years of support, and our premier sponsors who, along with our champions, help keep the organization running throughout the year. Their ongoing support is crucial during these uncertain times to allow us to continue to do our work serving our industry. Thank you again to our champions and our premier. Moving on, Georgia Bio is fortunate to be able to offer Bio's national purchasing program to our members. Our members save hundreds of thousands of dollars with these programs every single year. We know that every penny counts during these days. So if you're not already taking advantage of one or more of these programs, please reach to Christina. Our newest programs are the Brex card, which would be very, very helpful for companies looking to make large purchases, and just a new one that just joined, PSC Biotech. We encourage you to reach to take advantage of these members, save some money during these unprecedented times, and support the organization at the same time. We continue to work with Bio and also independently to find new programs that would benefit you as our members and save your company's money. Next, I'd like to invite you to save the date. So Georgia Bio is working diligently to restructure our events for the remainder of the year. We ask that you stay tuned for a new 2020 calendar next month, which will also address the format of events this year. And please also look out for details on our first Patient Advocacy Summit in September and hold October 13th and 14th for the annual summit. If you would like to be involved in either planning committee, please let Christina or me know. Additionally, during the month of July, we are running a membership drive. New members receive a one-time 20% discount on their membership. If a current member company makes a referral for a new member, they will receive a one-time 20% discount on a 2020 sponsorship. I would like to welcome to the audience Shreya Ramesh. Shreya is a 12th grader at Milton High School in Milton, Georgia. She was the Georgia BioGenius Challenge at our institute sent to the international competition at BioDigital a few weeks back. I'm thrilled to say that Shreya was named the overall winner of the International BioGenius Challenge, the premier competition for high school students that recognizes outstanding research and innovation in biotechnology. Georgia has not had an overall winner in over a decade, not since Johnny Fells, for some of y'all that may have been judges then. Judged by industry and academic experts, including our own Jamie Graham from Kilpatrick Townsend, Shreya's research using machine learning to distinguish early auditory biomarkers for the diagnosis of ALS and Parkinson's illustrates this generation's ingenuity in exploring multifaceted approaches to solving unmet needs in healthcare. Her work stood out among the innovative research programs of her fellow finalists. Along with the top honor, Shreya will receive a cash prize of $7,500. I ask that you join me in congratulating Shreya. Finally, I would like to dedicate a few moments this evening to honor our dear friend, colleague, mentor, and towering leader in science and technology, Dr. Bob Neeram, who passed on March 7th of this year, right before our originally scheduled awards dinner. Bob's impact on the global biomedical engineering community goes unmeasured. His mentorship of students and industry leaders, some of whom still serve on my board, continues to inspire, and his unwavering support of this organization, Georgia Bio, will never be forgotten. Joining us this evening is Bob's wife, Marilyn. I am sure that I speak for all of us when I say we miss our friend and colleague, and our sympathies and thoughts continue to remain with you and your family. I would now like to invite Dr. Andres Garcia, Executive Director for the Parker H. Petit Institute for Bioengineering at Georgia Tech, to share a few words about Bob. Andres?
Thank you, Maria, and I hope all of you and your loved ones are safe, and I want to extend my congratulations to all this year's winners. And Marilyn, I'm happy to see you. Michelle and I are thinking a lot about you. So I also want to thank Georgia Bio and Maria for the opportunity to acknowledge all of Bob's contributions. Bob, was my friend, my mentor, my colleague. He recruited me to come to Georgia Tech 21 years ago. And I've modeled my career as a researcher and a faculty member based on Bob's. So he was a faculty member at Georgia Tech for 33 years, and he had major impact everywhere. He was a visionary, and Bob really was the founding father in 4 separate disciplines in bioengineering. He was instrumental in the formation of the Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering at the NIH. He was a member of 2 academies, the National Academy of Engineering and the National Academy of Medicine. So I think in Georgia, he was probably the only person that was a member of both. And he had huge impact in Georgia Bio. I had a great conversation with Annie Hunt-Berries yesterday to try and go back. And she characterized Bob really as the bridge between Georgia Tech and Emory, and really started with a couple of other people, Bill Todd among others, the Clifton Road corridor that ended up becoming Georgia Bio. So Bob had all these tremendous accomplishments, but one of the things that he really was great at, and that I will miss, in addition to his humor and his friendship, was he was a great mentor. And he has mentored thousands of people. I've traveled all over the world, and I can't tell you the number of times that people say, "Oh, you're from Georgia Tech." I know somebody from Georgia Tech, Bob Neeram, and everybody had a great thing to say about Bob. The American Society for Mechanical Engineers has created a medal to recognize Bob for his contributions to mentorship. And this medal is presented every year to recognize all of Bob's contributions. And just to wrap up, one of the things that Bob really did a fantastic job towards the end of his career was that he started this awesome program called Project Engages, in which he has high school students from underserved high schools in Atlanta come and spend time at Georgia Tech and work in the faculty labs for research during a year. This is an unbelievable program. We've had 130 alums. Many of them end up going to top tier universities. One of the students that worked in my lab was the first person in her family to go to college, and she earned a full scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania, and she is now going into med school. So to me, that's an example of the impact that Bob had and his tremendous belief on everybody. So you know, Maria gave me 2 minutes. I don't want to go over the 2 minutes, but I want to thank Georgia Bio really for the opportunity to recognize Bob. And again, my congratulations to all the awards winners, especially Cindy Sondel and the Pediatric Technology Center from Georgia Tech. We're very proud for your awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. And again, my sincerest sympathies to Marilyn, her family, and those in our community who were lucky enough to call Bob a friend. I know that had a huge impact on this community here in Georgia. So let us now move on to our program. 2020 has certainly been a whirlwind. We live in a time of national, global uncertainty, but collaboration and leadership within our own industry is saving lives and accelerating the development of new diagnostics, treatments, and vaccines. More than ever, we have seen how globally interconnected we all are. It's hard to believe that July is around the corner. Most of you are still working from home. Our healthcare providers continue to work tirelessly to keep our hospitals staffed and ready to respond, and innovators continue to work to find solutions to combat COVID-19. We now face the task of reentering our offices and workplaces while the safety paradigm has shifted during our absence. Many Georgia Bio member companies continue to work in their labs under the essential business designation, while office staff has worked from home, including the Georgia Bio team. While the office shutdown was abrupt and affected by a series of executive orders by the governor, the reopening phased in by industry and time and will be complicated. Some office locations lend themselves to social distancing, while others do not. Georgia Bio has been and will continue to advocate for our companies, the state legislature, and work with our federal partners like Bio and AdvaMed and Pharma, provide business guidance that you can use to ensure that you're meeting the requirements the state has issued for reopening your office space, and we've been doing that on a one-on-one basis for quite a few of our small companies in particular, and work to offer forums for social connectivity and business growth. Our focus these last few months has been on our policymakers, because that is where a lot of our time and effort has gone during these unprecedented times, but we are starting to transition to highlight our companies, and we look forward to rolling out that new program calendar I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this program. So I thank each and every one of you for your resilience and leadership during these unprecedented times. Finally, I would add that we have shared together our common sense shock and profound sadness with the racial violence and an injustice that has played out in our country over these past few months. A few weeks ago, I shared a letter addressing this pattern of injustice. In the letter, I announced a testing alliance in partnership with the Center for Global Health Innovation and the Global Health Crisis Coordination Center to bring testing to underserved communities, first starting with the protests that are happening around the country, particularly in Atlanta and DC. I am proud to say that we have worked with Core Response and a number of other partners to stand up testing locations for 3 weekends in a row now during large protests, not only here in Atlanta, but also in Washington, DC. And we continue to work with these partners in order to execute more testing locations around the city of Atlanta, and we're working with some new NGOs to expand that into rural Georgia. Additionally, in my letter, I noted providing some forums where we can better ourselves learn and educate and learn to listen. So in partnership with Archie, the Atlanta Regional Commission, the Partnership for Southern Equity, and the Transformation Alliance, this morning we held our first program, and this summer we'll be working more to bring in some of the private sector into these programs. And I encourage you, as we roll out these programs, to join us, listen, learn, and just hear what people are going through. You can still find my letter on our website. Should you have any questions or concerns about what I said, don't hesitate to reach out. This is something near and dear to my heart, as I myself am a biracial American living here, and I'm proud to say I am American, but I am very saddened to see many of the hard things that we have all been going through these last few weeks in particular. And my heart does go out to those in the Black community, not only here in Atlanta, but around the globe. At this time, I'd like to now transition to our keynote speaker for the evening. But first, a short video from Al. All right, it's Scott. Maybe we'll transition to you and play the video afterwards.
All right.
Sorry about that, Scott. So Scott, I'm very pleased you could join us. So the medtech industry has had a unique role in the fight against COVID-19, from PPE to ventilators to diagnostic testing. AdvaMed and Georgia Bio members even have been providing frontline healthcare workers with the tools they need while simultaneously working across government to do our part to ensure a coordinated response. We'd love to hear your perspective on how AdvaMed and the industry has responded to this unprecedented challenge.
Well, Maria, thank you for having me. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Well, very good. So I'm happy to be with you. First of all, Maria, let me thank you for your leadership at Georgia Bio. You and I have known each other for a long time, back to the days when I was at Bio, the national organization, and I've seen your work and I've seen you grow, and seeing you in this job as CEO is impressive, and you've done a great job. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank all of your companies and friends that we work with so closely, both on the traditional biotech and life sciences side, but also now in my role at AdvaMed on the medtech side. So wanted to start just by saying thank you and appreciate all the work that you've done. To your question, Maria, to talk a little bit about what we've been through at AdvaMed. You mentioned this earlier in your remarks. It's been, as many say, an unprecedented time, and that certainly has been the case for us at AdvaMed and then for all of our medtech companies as well. To state the obvious, it's something none of us has ever been through before, and in many ways we weren't exactly sure how best to respond. But as I look back now over the course of the past three and a half months now, I have been incredibly proud of this industry, the work that everyone has done. The credit goes to my staff and of course the staff of all the companies. But you mentioned this, alluded to it in your earlier comments. We have been on the front line as an industry in helping fight this virus really from day one. In fact, even before the virus spread throughout the country. Our companies have been the companies who have done the primary work to scale up production of personal protective equipment, ventilators, and now diagnostic testing as well. I've said a number of times on shows that I've done and speeches that I've given since, I'm not sure where we would be in this country, frankly, and around the world without medical technology and the companies that we represent, have a good fortune of representing. I look back over the course of 3 months, and we've really moved from one big crisis to the next big crisis as we've tried to help prevent the spread of COVID throughout the world. It started with personal protective equipment, and you remember back in March when it started to ramp up, the concern that everyone had about potential shortages of masks and surgical gowns and gloves and a whole variety of technology that we needed to help protect healthcare workers, and now we're starting to see is needed to help the average citizen as well. Our companies went into overdrive immediately, starting to ramp up production of masks primarily for doctors and nurses in hospitals. Usually we would be producing these in a normal course of a 8-hour shift, right, at each of our companies. And within days, these companies scaled up to go to 3 shifts, 24/7 for weeks on end, to produce mass scale masks and gowns and gloves and a whole series of things that were critical in protecting our healthcare workers. And it was challenging for many of our companies, but man, did they respond in a way that we're really, really proud of. And then it was quick, then after that began, that we began to realize the possibility of a ventilator shortage in the country. We saw it in New York as the crisis began to swell there. Our companies reacted in a very, very similar way. It was interesting to watch, Maria. You know this from running Georgia Bio. So many of these companies that we have the fortune of representing are also competitor companies that work in a normal course with and compete with one another to create the best technology. What we saw during the ventilator crisis, however, was competitors who would come together under the AdvaMed umbrella in some cases to work together to share information, to share technology, to share access to component parts and things of that nature, so we could scale up to meet the demand that we were seeing and anticipating the surge across the country. And just to give you a sense of scale there, when in a normal week, companies that manufacture ventilators in this country do about 600 or 700 a week. And over the course of about 3 weeks, we got that up to where we were doing about 1,000, and then a month later, 2,000 or 3,000, and now the industry is producing about 7,000. And it's amazing if you look at it, how quickly that scale up began and consistently it carried over for the last 3 months. We're now not at a surplus necessarily, but we've been able to meet all the surge that was needed, all the capacity concerns that we had originally, and now are beginning to contribute much of that to the federal stockpile in anticipation of the possibility of a shortage either in the fall and winter if this comes back, or in future years, whether it's COVID or some other form of a virus that hits the country. We want to be better prepared collectively than we were before. And so the collaboration of our companies together, who are typically competitors, was remarkable to watch. And then we quickly shifted our work to testing, as you talked about, and what a great thing you're doing in helping around the rallies and the protests to provide testing to individuals who need it. But our companies were on the front line of that. I look back at the beginning and I thought to myself, when we first had challenges with the first CDC test, and we didn't know how many of these tests were going to be available, but we knew we weren't going to have enough initially. And to the credit of the federal government, they reached out to us and said to us, listen, we can't scale up and manufacture what we need to manufacture ourselves. It's going to require a public-private collaboration in order to get to where we need to be. And to the credit of the FDA and CDC, NIH, HHS, and the White House Task Force, all working together, we did scale up in a dramatic way. I talked to one CEO who got the first test approved through emergency use authorization by the FDA. He said to me, it took me about a week to 10 days from the time that we began the process until we ended the process to get a product approved for testing. That typically would take about a year. And I've said this a number of times, that shows you what we can do when we work together as private industry and the public sector to meet the challenges and the needs that we have from a public health standpoint. But it didn't stop with that company, right? We expanded that to so many companies in the diagnostic space and went from really 0 to now about 21 million tests, 27 million tests, I think it is now, over the course of 3 months. That's a remarkable scale up and remarkable response for the med tech industry. And so we're really proud of what we've accomplished. We're doing about 500,000 tests or so per day now, which is an amazing number given that the first test was approved on March 12th of this year. And it gives you a sense of the amazing ingenuity of this industry, the dedication to public health and trying to deal with a problem like we're facing with COVID-19, and the tremendous response, as I said, by the federal government to collaborate with us on that as well. The next phase is to move beyond just molecular testing into antigen testing and then into serology testing as well, so we can get a better sense of what immunity is and what that means as we get into the fall and winter. So our companies are continuing to work on that. And so in many ways, the first 3 months of this crisis, as I've termed, has been sort of phase one from our perspective. How can we help solve this crisis or mitigate the crisis? And as I said at the beginning, I don't know where we would be without our companies. The companies that are members of yours, Maria, there in Georgia, who have done tremendous work, whether headquartered in Georgia or have facilities in Georgia. The list is long, right? From Philips to Siemens to Medtronic, and I could go on and on, but I'm sure I'm leaving some out. but so many companies did incredible work, members of Georgia Bio. And for those who are on the phone, I want to thank you on behalf of the industry, but on behalf of the country as well, for the work that you've done. We're now shifting much of our work, trying to keep maintenance of effort in place on PPEs and ventilators and diagnostic testing, but we're now beginning to shift much of our work to making sure that we can help stabilize this industry, and working with Congress and the administration to make sure the tools are in place to help get us through this crisis from an economic standpoint. We've been pleased pretty much to date with the response from Congress with PPE and other programs, and that's been effective to help us, but there's more work that really needs to be done. There are 3 areas for us at AdvaMed that we're focused on for the next few months, and I put them in really 3 buckets, Maria. One is to continue to work on testing, not just for manufacturing tests, but working with the federal government to create a new strategic plan. I was with the secretary just a couple weeks ago, and we've had ongoing dialogue and presented them with a broad national strategic plan on testing that we believe will help not only help our companies meet the need, but help the broader lab community as well. And so we're going to continue working with them. We hope in the next couple of weeks we'll have some news to make there, to make sure that we're fully prepared for the rest of the summer and into the fall and next year as well. So that's going to be a major priority for us for the remainder of this year. Secondly, a tremendous focus on reopening hospitals to elective surgeries. And I know all of you have a real interest in that. It's critical not only to your companies, but to patients who need to get back into the hospital for elective surgeries, which frankly is not quite the right name and may be deferred surgeries, but they're essential surgeries that need to take place. And we have been pushing very hard to better understand and create some of our own standards to make sure that our hospital reps, our MedTech reps can get back into the hospitals to help with those surgeries. And we announced a few weeks ago, Maria, a partnership with the Association of Registered Nurses, the American Hospital Association, and AdvaMed, where we put together some standards that companies can have guidance and direction on how to get their employees back into hospitals to help with this. So we're really pleased with that. I believe we shared it with you and your team, Maria, but we'll make sure that your membership sees that as well. We're now taking that and expanding it globally, going beyond just US hospitals, and we hope in the next week or two to have more news on how hospitals are going to open up globally and how we can get back into those hospitals, engage what the process is, the procedures, the guidance to keep both our employees safe and then the patients safe, and the doctors and nurses as well. So we've made real progress in there. And then the third area is what we call our Excel companies, our small companies, and trying to help make sure that these who are struggling right now, whether to access capital during a difficult time or to get a product through the FDA or reimbursed by CMS that might have been put on the shelf because of the crisis, are better positioned to be successful there. And so we've got a work stream from our board on each of these 3 areas. The third is critical, I think, to small companies. There are lifeblood of innovation going forward, not just in the medtech space, but also, as you know, in the biotech space as well. And we need to make sure that the federal government recognizes the need here and supports them, whether it's through NOL reform or other tax incentives or other incentives to manufacture domestically. We're working very hard for these companies as well to make sure that they're in a good position to be successful once we come out of this. And so that is what we've been working on, Maria, to answer your question, and what we're continuing to work on over the course of the coming weeks. And let me close with this. You referenced racial justice and the issues we've seen as well. There's a role that we can play as AdvaMed. I have put out a few notes recently and had extensive conversations with our staff at AdvaMed, but for the industry as well. I think it's a special moment for us. We've had lots of conversations over many years about equity in healthcare, about equity in the workplace, and making sure, in our case, that MedTech is a welcoming community for people of color, not only because it's the right thing to do morally, but from a business standpoint, it's the right thing to do. Diversity in our workplace makes us better businesses and more effective in our communities. And so we are dedicating much of our time at the board now to think about more seriously what we can do as an industry to help move forward on many of these racial justice issues that are so important to us right now. And so we'll continue that work and collaborating with you, Maria, and other state associations as well. This is a really important issue from a healthcare perspective, from a medtech perspective, and from the country's perspective. And we want to be a part of the solution there as well. So we have a lot on our plate. And we're grateful for your partnership. And then thank you again, Maria, for your leadership personally and for that of your companies as well. And it's great to be with you today. I don't know if the video is going to be able to run or not.
It works. I think we got it.
All right.
I think we do have it going. So we'll close it out with that, I think.
Right.
Yeah. No, thank you for those remarks, Scott. While Christina gets that pulled up, I'd just like to note I appreciate your leadership, of course, and all the work that you and your team have been helping our team out with to make sure we're getting all the right messages out. Many of the tools that Scott referenced are available on our COVID-19 page on our website, and we can directly get them to you. As you can imagine, it's our interesting legislative session this week and last week here in Georgia to get things approved, but so we're working hard. But if you do need anything or need anything that Scott referenced, just let me or Joseph know. And Scott, regarding the small companies, you know, that is a consistent question we get, how the small companies can really participate and be incentivized by the government. I had an excellent conversation this morning with Senator Perdue, U.S. Senator Perdue from here in Georgia, and I really appreciated him stressing the importance of global cooperation and collaboration in order to really achieve success here. So in fighting COVID-19. So those were some good words to hear from the Senator this morning. But Scott, thank you again. But here's your video that was supposed to open up your remarks.
All right.
Thank you, Christina. And again, grace with technology, everybody. But thank you again to Scott for joining us today. And with that, we're going to move into our official awards program. I hope Scott's words were inspiring for us as we continue to battle this pandemic. So joining us we look forward to more updates from AdvaMed as our communities return back to work and school. And I'd now like to thank and invite Kilpatrick Townsend for their support for this event, and introduce Jamie Graham for a few words. Jamie?
Thank you, Maria. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Jamie Graham. I am a partner and patent attorney at Kilpatrick Townsend, and Kilpatrick Townsend is very proud to be the presenting sponsor of the 2020 Virtual Golden Helix Awards. As many of you know, Kilpatrick Townsend is a global general practice law firm. We have over 300 IP attorneys and have been very involved with Georgia Bio, going back to the early days when the name was the Georgia Biomedical Partnership, if those of you on the call remember those days. This is my third Zoom video conference today. And the first video conference via Zoom was a workshop on giving Zoom presentations. And the most important thing I learned from that presentation this morning was to keep it short, so I will. This year, I had the honor of being on the awards committee, and we had an amazing group of nominees. And all of the award recipients you will meet this evening are truly exceptional. And so, to kick off the awards presentation, I'd like to introduce our awards committee chairman and associate vice president, research, innovation, and commercialization at Augusta University, Chris McKinney.